Beneath the blistering sun of Sudan's desert, beyond the echo of the Nile's slow murmur, lies a land whose silence hides an empire older than memory, the Kingdom of Kush. Here, in the sands of Nubia, stand hundreds of pyramids smaller than Egypt's giants, but no less powerful in their presence. Sharp silhouettes rising from golden dunes, testaments to a civilization long overshadowed by its northern neighbor. For centuries, Egypt was hailed as the cradle of African grandeur, yet long before the Ptolemies or even the New Kingdom pharaohs, the Nubians were already shaping stone, forging gods, and raising kings who would one day conquer the conquerors themselves. The Kushites, born from the confluence of Nile and desert, inherited Egypt's divine traditions, but they did not merely copy them. They transformed them into something uniquely African, fierce and radiant with its own soul. Their first capital, Kerma, flourished around 2500 BC, a city of mud brick temples and colossal defiance that rivaled the might of Thebes. Kerma's artisans forged bronze, its traders exchanged gold and ivory with the lands of Punt, and its priests worshipped deities both familiar and strange. Amun, lion-headed Apedemak, and spirits of the river that guided the fate of men. When Egypt's pharaohs looked south, they saw wealth and power, and so they came to conquer. Thutmose I invaded, and for centuries Nubia lived under Egyptian shadow. But shadows can also hide seeds, and in that long silence, a new power grew. From the ashes of subjugation, the Kushites rose again, first at Napata, then at Meroë, cities that blended the gods of Egypt with the spirit of Africa. Around 800 BC, a Kushite king named Alara unified the south. His successors Piye and Taharqa would march northward, not as servants, but as rulers. They crossed the Nile's cataracts, entered Thebes, and crowned themselves pharaohs of Egypt. Thus began the 25th dynasty, the era of the Black Pharaohs. For a brief, luminous century, Africa ruled Africa, from the heart of Kush to the delta of the Nile. In Pi's victory stela, carved in stone, he wrote not like a conqueror, but as a man chosen by Amun, sent to restore divine order. Yet the empire he forged faced the relentless push of Assyria. When the Assyrians came, spears flashing and gods of war on their banners, Kush resisted fiercely, but the tides of history would not yield. By the 7th century BC, Taharqa's armies withdrew south, and Egypt slipped once more from Nubian hands. But unlike many fallen empires, Kush endured. It retreated, not in defeat, but into reinvention. The capital moved to Meroë, deeper into the savannah, where red clay and iron dust filled the air and elephants roamed the fields. At Meroë, a new world took shape. Iron smelters burned day and night, so fiercely that centuries later, archaeologists still find layers of ash that turn the soil black. Here, the Kushites became masters of iron, their weapons and tools spreading power across the region. They built hundreds of pyramids, smaller, steeper, and more numerous than those of Giza. Unlike Egypt's royal tombs, Meroitic pyramids were symbols of both death and rebirth, linked not only to the sun, but to the eternal rhythm of life and the lion god Apedemak. Their art changed, blending Egyptian hieroglyphs with a script of their own making, still partly undeciphered today. Their queens, called Kandakes, ruled alongside or even above kings. One such queen, Amanirenas, led armies against Rome itself after the Roman conquest of Egypt. When Augustus demanded submission, she answered with steel. Her warriors stormed into Roman-held cities, and though peace was later made, Rome never conquered Kush. Imagine the power, an African queen staring down the legions of an empire at its peak. Amanirenas' face was carved on temple walls, not as a consort, but as a ruler, scarred in battle, crowned in victory. Her son's blind eye was the price of resistance, but her spirit never yielded. For centuries, Meroë prospered, a city of gods, iron, and eternal flame. Travelers described its palaces gleaming in the sun, its temples dedicated to the lion god, and its pyramids spreading across the desert like stars fallen from the heavens. Yet, as all kingdoms do, Meroë eventually faced its dusk. Trade routes shifted, the Nile's blessings became unpredictable, and to the south, the rising kingdom of Aksum began to dominate. By the 4th century AD, Kush had faded into the sands, its cities abandoned, its language forgotten, its pyramids swallowed by time. But history has a strange way of remembering. The pyramids of Meroë stood waiting, hundreds of them, until European explorers stumbled upon them in the 19th century, shocked to find such splendor outside Egypt's borders. "These cannot be African," they said, a reflection not of truth, but of blindness. Yet, archaeology has restored the truth. These pyramids are deeply, profoundly African, the legacy of a civilization that ruled, traded, created, and dreamed long before colonial lines divided the continent. The Kingdom of Kush was not a shadow of Egypt. It was its equal, its mirror, its silent rival beneath the desert sun. Today, when the wind sweeps across the Meroitic sands, the pyramids hum with an ancient voice, a whisper of the Black Pharaohs, the Kandakes, the priests of Amun, and the nameless artisans who cut stone by moonlight for a god they believed would guide them into eternity. Their story is the story of Africa, of resilience, reinvention, and forgotten glory rediscovered. As the sun sets over Nubia, the pyramids cast long shadows across the dunes, not as relics, but as reminders that greatness is not confined to fame, nor civilization to those who wrote the loudest. Some empires fade, others wait to be remembered. And so, when you next hear the name Kush, remember, this was not the Egypt of imitation, but the Africa of creation. The land where black stone pyramids rose not for glory alone, but for eternity.